attached to the mayor the way Milwaukee does. Over the last 109 years, only 9 different people have occupied the mayor's office at Milwaukee City Hall. For 17 of those years, Tom Barrett led the city. After leaving his hometown in 2021 to serve as U.S. ambassador to Luxembourg, Barrett is back. A.J. Byport visited his West Side home to talk about what he learned overseas and how he reflects on his run as Milwaukee's mayor.
So for people wondering what an ambassador does, what did you do for 3 years?
So the way I describe it is, first and foremost, people don't think, and I didn't think, there has to be a way for one government to literally talk to another government. We would receive from Washington, D.C. cables. They weren't cables like they were cables in the 1940s, but they still called them cables. And they would say, deliver this message to this part of government. And so we would have people, including myself, that would literally go to the foreign ministry or go to the prime minister's office or another office and talk to the people there and say, this is the United States position on this issue or that issue. This is how we would like you to vote in the United Nations, for example.
One of the most pressing international issues during Tom Barrett's time as the U.S. ambassador to Luxembourg was the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Barrett says a major concern then and now is President Donald Trump's relationship with Russian President Vladimir Putin.
I think right now in Europe there's almost a panic about what the relationship is. I think President Trump sitting down with Putin, I think, was a shocker to the people there.
Following the recent Oval Office blow-up between President Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, there is also a renewed focus on what European countries are doing to defend Ukraine and themselves.
That was by far the most substantive issue that we worked on. We worked on increasing the defense spending in Luxembourg because it is at the bottom of the NATO countries. So I think that there's a recognition now that that has to happen. Was it too slow? Absolutely, yes, it was too slow. Now, virtually every NATO member understands that it has to do a lot more. The question is, how quickly can it do it, and is it going to be enough to appease President Trump?
So, from what you're saying, President Trump's pressure wasn't necessarily needed then.
Oh, I don't think the pressure was bad. I think the pressure was there under President Obama, under President Trump, under President Biden. But ironically, it was really Putin who did more to wake up the Europeans than anybody else, because now the war is at their doorstep, and they are very concerned.
Reflecting on his 3 years in Luxembourg, Barrett says there were 2 distinct differences from Milwaukee: a lack of violent crime and an investment in public transit. A key piece of Barrett's mayoral legacy is the downtown streetcar, which first started running in the fall of 2018. After not adding updated ridership numbers going back to last August, the HOP recently filled in those numbers for the rest of 2024. Numbers from DPW show ridership is not back to pre-pandemic levels. Barrett maintains politics at the state level have played a big role in why the streetcar has failed to thrive.
In Europe, you did not have governments really zero in to try to hurt the city and hamper the city, and in this case, to strangle the streetcar. That's what's happened. You've got outstate legislators who want to literally strangle the streetcar.
Barrett says he has no regrets about the streetcar. He believes it can still succeed, but only if it covers more of Milwaukee.
I think it should be extended. I think it should be extended north, obviously to Fiserv Forum, north into the central city on the north side of Milwaukee, up Val Phillips Drive or Martin Luther King Drive. On the south side, it should be headed towards Bayview and the Hispanic neighborhoods.
Barrett returned to Milwaukee in January. He resigned from his ambassadorship ahead of President Trump's return to the White House.
Now that you've had 3 years, particularly overseas, to kind of get away, and now you're back in town and you're able to once again experience the city, is there anything that comes to mind when you reflect on your 17 years as mayor that you look at and say, I wish I'd done X or Y differently?
Well, let me start by saying I absolutely loved being mayor. It was a thrill of a lifetime. I've had many political jobs. It was by far the most challenging political job that I had. If I went back, I'm sure I could find things that we did wrong or we could have done differently. But I'm proud of the fact that I did it. I worked as hard as I could for as long as I could for the people of this community.
Under Barrett's leadership, Milwaukee continued to struggle with disparities between its black and white residents, whether it's health outcomes, income levels, or academic achievement.
What would you tell somebody who goes, well, Mr. Barrett, you were mayor of the city for 17 years. Why didn't it get better while you were in office?
I think that's a very fair question. I think in some places it did get better. I think we made some strides. Certainly in housing we made strides. There's parts of the city that are doing better. I think we obviously have a much stronger downtown than we did when I came into office.
Barrett defends his tenure against criticism his administration was too focused on downtown development.
And my argument there is you have to have a strong heart. You have to have a strong heart. And the heart of Milwaukee is very strong right now. Are there issues outside the downtown area, the heart of the city? Of course there are. But many of those are related to the lack of jobs.
As for what's ahead, Barrett says he's not sure, but he is fairly certain he won't be going very far when he makes his next move.
But I will say that many people in Luxembourg said, oh, so you're going back to Washington, D.C.? And I said, oh, no, my home is in Wisconsin. I'm going to Wisconsin. That's where my home is.
So whatever's next, it'll be here.
That's what I'm assuming. Again, I'm not looking at anything anywhere, but this is clearly my home. This is where my heart is. This is where my soul is.
Thanks for watching this CBS 58 Sunday Morning Story. Subscribe here and make sure to tune in to CBS 58 every Sunday morning to see more uplifting stories like this. And check out our other playlists on YouTube. You'll find everything from Everyday Heroes to our CBS 58 Hometown series on CBS 58.